Back in the day, cruising was an old folks game, a rich person's game, the kind of thing that was talked about by Robin Leach each week on TV. You know what I'm talking about. I'm Robin Leach and these are the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Okay, maybe you have no idea what I'm talking about because you're not old enough. But the point I'm making is that cruising is so much different now than it used to be. And in today's cruising world, how do you know what cruise line is the one for you? Hi everyone, I'm Jamie from Sharonatsea Travel. Thanks so much for joining me for today's video. As always, if you're new here and you happen to enjoy the cruising content you see, please consider hitting that little old subscribe button so that we can have a chance to hang out again. Now, I mentioned that cruising has changed so much over the years. It's gone from something that was only for people seeking the highest levels of luxury to one of the most affordable vacations for families, couples, and solo travelers. If you ask the average person how many different cruise lines there are, they might say 4 or 5, but the reality is there are over 50 different cruise lines worldwide and at least 15 that operate and sail from the United States. If you're new to cruising and booking a cruise, how do you know which cruise line is the right one for you? Now, I feel like most people have heard of what I call the big 3 cruise lines. They advertise on TV, radio, and all over social media, and they are Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian Cruise Lines. I compare these cruise lines to car companies because each one has an ownership group that not only owns them, but also owns other cruise lines under their same brand umbrella. Just like Chevrolet, it's owned by General Motors, and General Motors owns Buick, GMC, Cadillac, and Chevrolet. You also have Ford. Their ownership group owns Ford and Lincoln. Dodge ownership owns Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge. Toyota owns Toyota and Lexus. You get the picture. These big 3 cruise lines have sister cruise lines under their brand umbrellas, and in most cases, the other cruise lines happen to be a step up from the main ones that offer a little higher end experience for their customers. Now, Carnival has 9 brands in total. That includes most notably Princess and Holland America, plus a few others and some that are more European-based. Royal Caribbean also owns Celebrity and Silversea cruises with part ownership in a few other overseas brands as well. And Norwegian also runs Oceania and Regent 7 Seas. In all these cases, the other cruise lines promote more of an upscale experience, offering an increased focus on dining, service, and the cultures of the cruise ports that they visit. Another thing the other cruise lines have in common is the average age of their guests. As you go up the luxury ladder with these other cruise lines, the average age increases as do the lengths of some of the cruises. It's very common to encounter an older and maybe retired couple on cruises that are 10 days and longer, whereas most families and younger couples might stick to the popular 7-day or less itineraries. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case, but I think you'll find that more often than not. There are a few other cruise lines that are part of the U.S. cruising experience as well. You've got Disney Cruise Lines, and there are 5 cruise ships to choose from, with 3 more on the way in the next 2 or so years. You can guess that if you love the Disney park experience, you will love the Disney cruise experience. The focus is on the characters and the kids, and although there may not be a big party vibe, and definitely not a casino for all you gamblers out there, Disney offers a great experience for kids of all ages, with fabulous dining options, quality service, and of course, Mickey Mouse. Along with the great experience a Disney cruise offers, it will also come with a pretty steep price tag. They are, on the average, the most expensive family-oriented cruise line you'll find. Next up is Virgin Voyages, the newest kid on the block, owned by entrepreneur Richard Branson. With 3 cruise ships and 1 more on the way, Virgin is a unique, adults-only experience, and you must be 18 or older to sail on a Virgin Voyages cruise. They offer what some might call an eclectic dining experience, with over 20 unique eateries on their ships, with great entertainment and service, much of which comes with more of an adult theme, laced with double entendre. Now, Virgin might not be the cruise line for everyone, but if you like great service and to get a bit risque on occasion, take a Virgin cruise and find out if the name Virgin might be slightly misplaced with this cruise line. Another cruise line making a push to be more involved in the U.S. cruise market is the Italian-based cruise line MSC, also known as the Mediterranean Shipping Company. Yes, they also own and operate cargo and container vessels in addition to their 23 cruise ships. MSC offers an Italian cruising experience, with some of their newest ships adding some of the more family-friendly attractions that many of the main cruise lines offer, and in many cases, they seem to be offering a little bit less of a price tag as well. No matter what you've heard in the cruise news world lately, MSC does have their foot in the door, and they are hoping to put their cruise ships into more U.S. cruise ports. All right, now let's get back to those big 3 cruise lines. I mentioned that the sister ships of the big 3 cruise lines were all a bit of an upscale experience. Of them all, Princess and Celebrity might be the two sister lines that have put out newer ships, making them a little more family friendly than they have been in the past. Bottom line is that if you book on a sister ship of one of the big three, you can expect what should be a great cruise with quality dining, great service, more traditional entertainment, and an experience that should leave you well pampered and relaxed. Now, yes, you can also expect a little higher price tag to go along with all of that pampering. Now, I've sailed multiple times with the three big cruise lines on multiple cruise ships. Full disclosure, I probably have about 50 cruises under my belt between all three of them. Now, I can line up 100 people and get different opinions from all of them, but the consensus is Carnival is great for families and people that are cruising to party, let their hair down a little bit. They don't call them the fun ships for nothing. They have a well-earned reputation for having a heavy party vibe, and one very unique thing on Carnival is the cruise directors. The Carnival cruise directors are also entertainers. They usually sing, they dance, they do it all, and they do it all over the ship. They are incredibly interactive, and people actually cruise certain ships to follow certain cruise directors. The other two cruise lines, they have cruise directors, but they're more like managers of the entertainment department with some hosting duties for certain events. I'm sure they're great people, but they just don't have that pizzazz that those Carnival cruise directors have. Now, as far as food, Royal and Norwegian have a leg up on Carnival, at least when it comes to the main dining rooms and their buffet areas. I'm sorry to say it, Carnival, but they've just got you beat. Sometimes by a little bit, but they've got you beat. Specialty dining is pretty darn good on all the big three cruise lines, but when it comes to their newer cruise ships, Royal and Norwegian offer more specialty and unique dining options, although if you do want a guy's burger, Carnival is the only one that can provide you that. Now, I have found that as far as service goes, on the whole, my best experiences have been on Carnival with NCL next, followed by Royal Caribbean. I'm not talking about being pampered, I'm just talking about the service that's friendly, interactive, and always with a smile. But I will also say that I've always enjoyed my cruises on all of the big three cruise lines. You'll find awesome entertainment on all three lines, but I will say that the newer the ship, the more spectacular the show. Another thing that I found is that in many cases, the older ships will often go to more desirable cruise ports. With all the new ships coming out, the cruise lines have to keep people interested in the older ships. Many of the older ships will have repeat customers on them and will go to ports that are not the most visited. Now, I know some of you are already in an uproar because many cruisers are loyal to their favorite cruise line and they think their cruise line is the best at everything. I get it. Loyalty is a great quality. But again, listen, these are my experiences and my opinions, so don't get too mad at me for that. Any of the three main big cruise lines is a great place to start when figuring out which cruise line is for you. But keep a few things in mind. You will find huge differences in newer ships versus older ships, starting with the price tag and ending with all the bells and whistles newer ships now offer. If your first cruise is a newer ship, especially on Carnival and Royal, you may be quite jaded if your next cruise is on a ship that's 10 years old. Now, we don't include NCL in that statement so much because although their newest ships are gorgeous, they're actually a little bit smaller in size than some of the older Norwegian ships, and you won't find such a huge difference between the newer and older ships, in my opinion. Also, if you're a newer cruiser, one of the big three cruise lines has a bit of a reputation to go along with that of being the fun ships. You may have heard of people that refer to Carnival Cruise Line as the Walmart of the seas. Now listen, in my opinion, this is very unfair because number one, the people saying that, they've never actually cruised on Carnival. And number two, if we're being completely honest, it's kind of rude that they're saying that. It's because of the cruise line's demographic. Now listen, if you don't mind spending time with people from all walks of life, then definitely consider Carnival as a possible cruise line for you. And for what it's worth, we've always had great experiences on our Carnival cruises. Finally, as you make your decision which cruise line's for you, you have to weigh many factors including features and benefits versus cost. You can also look for deals when you're booking. Confirm what's included in the price, like any dining or drink packages. Look for convenience, like take a look at the proximity of the port to where you live. Look at the itineraries that they have. That way you can judge different cruise lines and see if a certain cruise line is local to you and just makes things a little bit easier. Maybe that's going to be your perfect cruise line. Go to YouTube and look at ship tours and blogs to learn about what some of the different ships and cruise lines have to offer. Narrow down your list and then go online to any of the cruise lines' websites and do what's called a mock booking to compare prices and what's included for the ports you want to go to and the time of year you want to cruise. You can just go on there and enter in all your information and you should be able to spit out the total cost right there. Just make sure you go all the way through the mock booking so that it does include port fees and taxes. Once you've figured out which cruise line is for you, then you just need to pinpoint which ship to sail on, but that's the easy part and also the fun part. My family has found that researching which cruise to take and on which cruise ship is part of the entire process and adds to the excitement of booking a cruise. Now, when you're all set, you can decide to either book online, call the cruise company directly, or choose an experienced travel agent to handle things for you. Your price will be the same no matter any way you go. And you know what I say, using a great travel agent is an awesome way to support small businesses. Well, we've covered a lot today, but hopefully this video will help you just a little bit as you try to decide which cruise line is right for you and your family. Just make sure that you always do these three important things: research, research, and more research. The more you cruise, the more you'll know what you want from cruising, and that decision will just get easier every time. If you've already cruised a few times, do me a favor, jump into the comments below the video and let us know, what was your first cruise line that you booked on? What cruise ship was it on? And was it the right cruise line for you, or did you end up changing it up a little bit down the road? Before you go, one final favor, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give the video a big old thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and feel free to share it with friends and family. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.